Whew. All right. Whoa. Good Lord. Hack up a lung there for a second, huh? Whew. I do have the ceiling fan on too. I don't know if that's affecting audio at all. Whew. Man, that cough is killing me. That's absolutely a savage cough. All right, so see if we can get it to just stay calm for a little while. I've been coughing so hard that it's actually upset my digestive system. So I've had a bit of a rough day all around, but hopefully it's on its way out. All right, so. Oh, yeah, we might have signal up down tonight. We'll find out. Oh, yeah, it's not plugged in, so it may do this to us. If it drops it, I'll pick up tomorrow. Like, I don't know. I'm not going to fight with it too much if it does it again tonight. It looks like we got a good, strong signal, so we should be all right. All right, so last night talked about VidCon plans. And then my hope is after VidCon, like I would have loved to be able to work more towards where I'm going to get some more Makerspace videos shot. But that's just it. My plans have to be stretched out over an extra year. So I'm not going anywhere next year. Next year's prime year for recouping my fundage. A better financial basis for some of these projects. Because as it stands right now, like I just don't have I'm not sure I have enough money to do what I'm going to do this summer. I'm probably going to end up going in the hole a little bit and then working my way back out of it. But that's an investment I'm willing to make. Looking at the fitness and diet goals we have going on here, I'm sort of looking at the trying to find the right document. I've got several of them open here. Okay, fitness and diet. I've got my live edited or my non-live edited videos to do, and I think I'm going to start on Monday with the review of Peter Pan, and then what was it? Tuesday would be Views Day. Wednesday would be creative prompts inspired by Peter Pan. Thursday is, I believe, supposed to be a review of Avengers Endgame, and possibly, I don't know if I ever uploaded, and I don't think I did, a review for Infinity War. And so I'll do a review for that, and then I think what my plan was Friday would be. Am I doing that right? Yeah, there was something I was going to do on Friday, and then Saturday would be the creative prompts based off of Infinity War and Endgame. And then that should be like the 6 days of the week that we have the recorded content, the edited content, and in the meantime, I will be doing. I'm thinking I'll probably move video. I've been thinking about it over the evening, and I'm looking at the possibility that video would be better done during VidCon, and writing would be better done in July, because in July, I believe July is the National Novel Writing Month. writing camp, I guess is what they call it, Camp NaNoWriMo. And that's, the month of the entire month you try to write a book or something like that, do a writing project during the summer. And I don't usually participate in those because I usually do the November National Novel Writing Month, but I might work on that. I think it would be kind of fun to see if I could pull off. I mean, I'll be traveling for the first, second, and possibly the third week of July, so it'll be tricky, but I think I could probably pull it off and do some writing each night. And I mean, the end of VidCon is the 14th, so the 14th would be 14th, and it supposedly takes like 44 hours to drive from there to here if you did it straight. So if I did 10 hours a day, which feels like an awful lot, but I could be back here by the 17th, which isn't super bad. So if I did the video category of content on the 10th, or the 7th through the 13th, essentially, and I moved the writing from there to let's say the 21st to the 27th, it bugs me a little bit to think about doing it that way, because there's a certain part of me that says, like, you arrange things to be writing, video, board games, products, foods, art, video games, and then a health week, and it feels wrong to jumble that all up. But to make everything fit right, I think I may do this coming week as a like, I think I'm leaving health and the health week is lined up where it needs to be, but moving everything else around would be, writing week should be ending today, but I didn't get to it yet. The video week would be better placed in July for VidCon. So that leaves me, of the first four, would be board game, product, and then I start on sort of like the 30th of June with the food-based content. And that would be maybe reviewing the carbohydrate stuff or some other thing that fits that category. Then after that would be art, video games, and then health week. So if I didn't do videos this week and didn't do writing this week and didn't do videos this coming week, and instead move those into July, the spot that they would occupy, the videos would swap with Art Week, and then the writing would be something like, I can't swap it with the Health Week because that's the one that's definitely locked in place. But I do have the 28th through the 3rd marked as off. Is that a whole week? I don't imagine. No. Oh, yeah, it is. That feels like whooping cough to me. That's a fun little ride. So I can bump writing over to 28th through the 3rd. as distinct writing projects for this channel and distinct from National Novel Writing Month NanoCamp. So I could simply do that. But for that to make sense, where I'm going with that is I'm swapping video for Art Week. So that would be more along the lines of starting an Art Week this coming week. And let's see, we're seeing if I can pull up my list of, I don't know if I can find it right here right now. That's my fitness stuff. So trying to pull up a list and find out my planned art project for this time frame was going to be and that's not it. It's going to be another file, and I don't want to strain out my processor while we're on the risky border of being kicked off of here by overworking the processor. I'm pretty sure what I was thinking of doing was doing a like a photography week, but I may swap that out for something else. So I got to really plan, and like tomorrow is going to be the first day of it. So tomorrow is going to be our art week. Ooh, fun little ride that is. So I'm going to work on trying to figure out what the best way to do an art week is for this coming week, and then put the video week off to recordings at VidCon, whether or not they're collaborations with other people or if they're just recordings of things at the convention. And then talking about the things I learned at the convention and those panels that I went to and plan to go to. That's sort of the hope there. Maybe checking out some of the stuff in the local area. And then, yeah, so that would be the best way, I think, going forward. It's sort of just taking those top two and shifting them down. Sort of. Not really. It is very jumbled, and it still bothers me a little bit. I like a nice, orderly, everything's working the way I planned it kind of thing. But life doesn't work that way often. So just making an adjustment to, thinking of it that way. So I'm looking at art this week. Yeah. So let's just move that around on here because that's what I need it to say so I don't forget what I'm doing half the time. Okay, so that goes down here. Art week, swap that. So, and then copy, yep. And then art week up there. And then shift writing down into the week off. So that's actually going to be interesting because what that does is if I finish up on the 3rd with one writing project, a week of writing projects theoretically, I start the next week on the 4th is another writing week. So I may do 2 weeks back to back of solid writing projects and then shift from there right into video. And that's the thing that shifts the least around. It really just, it means that what I was planning to do for art is in a different location, and video just swapping video and art essentially, and doubling up on the writing week at the beginning. So I sort of took a week off here, I guess, because of the cold or whatever. But everything else looks like it stays pretty much in sequence from there. The other thing I have to keep in mind is I'm working on the baseline fitness routine that I'm supposed to be using right now. It's a little hard to do any cardio or exercise routine when you have that happen on a regular basis. Nothing like making yourself winded when you've got that'll kick in every time you take a deep breath. But I'm hoping that I'll be able to get into some of that better over this coming week, because I want to jump back into that one and have that one going, because that isn't so much a do it live, like the health and well-being content isn't going to be until late July, and it's going to be covering the cardio dominant start, so that'll start that week, and the high carb diet ending that week, and that'll be the preceding 4 weeks, which means I'm not starting that diet until the end of this month. So right now I'm in the baseline diet, baseline fitness phase, and part of what I wanted to do for that was, while I could still say it, is going from sedentary to some level of fitness. And I thought it would be kind of fun to try establishing a baseline fitness that's somewhat inspired by the actor who plays Spider-Man. So I was basically going to do couch potato to Spider-Man in 40 days if I can. So get to a point where I can get the fitness routine down by the end of the month. I don't know that I'll be... Well, I know that I won't be as fit as Tom Holland is. He's been a gymnast for years. But getting to a point where I can do an exercise routine similar to or inspired by some of his fitness routines, and do that multiple times a week, would be a fun thing to do. Like, just do it as a series, an edited episode of health and well-being, where it's couch potato to fit, or in this particular case, couch potato to Spider-Man. And we both know that I am not going to be any Spider-Man by the end of this. But I got to thinking, like, if we're going to start as a couch potato, could I be a Spudderman? So it would be Spudder, Spudderman. And I got to thinking, like, it's sort of a fun play on, going to Spider-Man, but it's also, I got to thinking, like, can I design a t-shirt design where you do like a Spider-Man theme, but instead of a spider in the middle, you have a potato with fries for legs? And I'm like, oh God, yes, I need to do that. I need to do that so bad. And then I got to thinking, like, it doesn't change the fact that I am likely to be more fit by the end of the year, but I do like the idea of then proceeding to be Spudderman tries this fitness routine. It sort of becomes part of the brand. And so I do think that would be kind of fun to do. I'm hoping I can get myself up and running into a better fitness routine in the next few days, because this cold has put me down for days, and I have not been in any position to do any fitness stuff. But I'm hoping to get back into it and really give it an honest go, and hope to reach by the thing about the fitness routine is the first thing I'm going to be doing when I'm traveling is the dietary changes. And those dietary changes kick in at the end of June, but they end at the sort of 21st, no, 27th, I believe, of July. And so the fitness aspect of this routine is going to start on the 21st of July. So the routine that I'm working on right now, my Sputterman routine, is that's going to run pretty much from this coming week all the way out to the 21st of July. So ideally, what I'd like to do is give a progress report of where I am on that at the start of or at the end of this month, where I do the edited and recorded content. So health and well-being will have a, what's the date on that? So this week would be Peter Pan on the 10th, Endgame on, I think, the 13th, and then it would be, I believe it's the Star Trek The Next Generation board game on the 17th. And then I think it's my camera tripod on the 20th. And then it's a food review video on the 24th. And then a art or music review on the 27th. And then video game on the 1st. And then I think the 4th is when I should be doing a health and fitness routine review. And that would be where I would do Sputterman. And I think that works relatively well. It's not as it doesn't as cleanly fall within the framework of the month that I would have preferred, but this cold just derailed everything. Ideally, what it would have been is move everything back a week. So, what's today? Today's the 8th. So 2 days ago would have been the stupid moth, go away. 2 days ago would have been the Endgame review, and Monday this past week would have been Peter Pan. I just didn't get it done. But the hope is that just bumping everything off by a week down doesn't stop doing that. Doesn't derail too much the sequence of events. So I was looking at, trying to look at the calendar here, and it's doing some misbehaving. But the review of the Sputterman routine would be the 4th of July. That's kind of funny. All right. And then the subsequent next month would be the Monday the 8th and Thursday the 11th and Monday the 15th and 18th, 22nd and 25th. And then the 29th would be the next video game review, followed on the 1st of August with the subsequent next health and well-being review. And at that point, we should have, let's go down here, see if we can look up here. So August, we end we end cardio on the 11th. So I probably won't be reviewing another fitness routine for the next health and well-being review. I may review either a diet or a mental health, like a meditation or something like that. And then, yeah, that seems about where it's probably going to work out. It's not a hugely out of proportionate location for that schedule. Good Lord, my throat's going bad again. All right, and then, so that's July to August 1st. And then August 4th, yeah, all the way through August, so August 4th through August 31st is 4 straight weeks. And that cleans out nicely to the 2 per week ratio that I want things to line up in. And so I think that works pretty well for my intentions anyway. Tinkering week. My hope is that when I go over to my Roving Jack channel, I'm hoping to get back into a routine. That's one of the things I need to kick myself into this week. My motivation's been a little low, but what I'm hoping to do, my daily schedule should be something like I do the videos for this channel shouldn't be more than 2 to 4 hours per day, lining all that up. And so I want to put each week on my Roving Jack channel. I want to do a tinkering project along with the Makerspace projects. Is that what we're talking about? Or I don't know that I ever had a plan to do. Like, I have the product design week I do here. That's the most tinkering I think I ever had lined up on this channel. What I want to do for the Roving Jack channel is have a weekly tinkering project. And so my videos for that channel, for the Makerspace tours that I have a bunch of still, are pretty much Monday through Friday. So I have 5 videos from Monday through Friday for pretty much every place that I've been to. And then I just have to edit those and put those up. But then I have Saturday and Sunday. And what I kind of want to do for that is a tinkering project on Roving Jack channel. And so, like, I have done a few things recently where I've been playing around with a few things. And I've had the foresight, not always best video quality, but enough foresight to get at least a little bit of video content and a little bit of still images of some of the things I've been tinkering with. And I want to stitch those into video, edit it together with the narration over top of what I've been tinkering on. And then I'm debating whether or not I want to do a second video on Sunday, whether or not that's a tinkering or just a channel update or those types of things. Like, I should start up a Patreon channel for that so that I can keep people appraised of where I'm going on the project, because I've let it languish too long. I burnt out a little bit from traveling and trying to recoup the physical and monetary costs of those travels have really done me in pretty hard. And so it's just easier sometimes for me to focus on doing some other projects. And I've let it go too long, and I feel bad about it, which just makes it harder for me to face it. But I need to just step in and start working on it. And so I need to work this weekend on trying to get, I think it's South Carolina edited, then sent off to them for their approval, because they wanted to approve it first. But I do have North Carolina will be the one that goes up next, because once I send it off to them to be approved, I want to give them like a week or two to have the time to approve it. So North Carolina goes up while South Carolina has 2 weeks to get it approved for theirs to go up after that. And then hopefully I'll be able to keep up at a regular pace on that. And that's 5 days a week. And so for each weekend in there, I kind of want to have a tinkering project and then I've debated whether or not I want to do like updates on Patreon, updates on how I'm handling the channel and how I'm going to be doing things from there, and an update on, like, I do want to do for that channel. I had an idea for a series on play buttons, and I started doing my own stuff with it at one point anyway. The other sort of like experimental things that I want to do on this channel are like the Star Wars rewrites. I want to do the choose your own adventure style video content that I wanted to work on. I'll probably do more of the role-playing game style first, because that's the first one I can figure out how to get to work on the current system YouTube uses. And then like there are some of those things I want to do, and maybe like in the art category, and maybe that's what I'll do this week. I'll have to really sit down and think about it. One of the things I do for creative things is like card modeling, or building small sculptures or design pieces that are essentially tinkering. So like in my case, I would take cardboard and glue and build something. And there are some of those types of things that I could do as part of the art category here, or the product category. Now, the things that I've wanted to do for the tinkering over and that's the trick, is it's like I'm trying to figure out a way that I can streamline my own projects, because I found, like, you've seen me doing some of my projects, and the thing I have repeatedly said on more than one occasion is, of course I made it more complicated than it needs to be. That's just how I do things. I don't know why I do that. And I've, to a certain degree, done that with how I do videos here. And it's, I'm learning bits and pieces as I go about how, like, I can make this easier on myself and everybody else. And one of those things that I need to do is, like, the new way I want to do my videos, during the edited videos during the week, is to do a review of things, and keep that as a single video, and then move over a subsequent day to giving creative prompts inspired by that thing. Because up until now, I've always jumbled them together. And one of the biggest struggles I had early on was these videos ended up being like 22 minutes long sometimes. And like, not everybody's up for that. And, if you're showing up for a review of a movie or a book, you're not there for the prompts. But if you're there for the prompts, you don't necessarily need the review. And so, like, half the content every time I did it was not for who was viewing it. And I knew in my mind that means I should change how I'm doing it. but there's a part of doing this kind of thing where, at least in my brain, I look at like, well, I feel like just reviewing a book is not interesting enough, so I have to give more than just that. And at the same time, I'm like, nobody wants just 6 ideas that came off the top of my head as the only thing that's on the channel. But I think that's just me saying, like, each of those things might be good as a video, but if I'm doing them, then they're not going to be good enough. So if I put 2 things that are not good enough on their own together, you have more to eat, essentially. It's like, well, these might be subpar pancakes, but there are a lot of them. And that model of thinking is just a holdover of some of my own things I need to work through. It's part of why I do the mental health and well-being content earlier on my channel, is I have some ways of talking to myself that are a little abusive, and I always have doubts. And I think at this point, I'm starting to realize that just like, no, what I really just should be doing is reviews work. There are people who do review channels, and they have a 5-minute review of many different things. And if I just do a review, that's good enough. And if I can get better at doing reviews just as reviews, that's better for my channel, it's better for my viewers, and it's better for me. Because I know I can read a book or watch a movie or play a game and just review it. And that's easier content to get done and put up. And then the ideas it inspires to create new things, I can do another video like that and not have to worry about syncing it all up and doing it all in one way. And so it gets substantially easier to make those videos, because it literally is in most of these cases. The review portion of it is try a thing, talk about your experience of the thing, rate it, review it, you're done. I can do that in a 5 to 10 minute sitting, and the editing time on that video will be much faster. And I just set it up, do it, and go. And then the writing prompt is going to be a little more difficult, but again, it's going to be shorter, easier, and less difficult if I just do it as a separate unit. And like, that's because somewhere along the way of creating the content that I've created, I got it into my head to overcomplicate what I'm doing. And so it does seem hard at first to do videos. It's a lot of prep, it's a lot of redoing, it's a lot of editing, and it's a lot of figuring out. Like the first videos I shot for this channel, one of the things that happened a fair amount was I got very rambly. I did a lot of things that didn't make sense in the sequence of it, and you just didn't know it until you did it. You do it, and it's not quite where you want it to be. That's okay. That was try one. And I'm of the mindset that I want to do that sort of what I call out loud. I don't want to quietly do it off into the background and have those things never show up. I want to make my mistakes and learn out loud. I want you to be able to go back, and if you really want to, you can see the very first video I put up on this channel and over on the other channel. They're not great. They have something in them that's worth seeing. And I may reshoot and, at a later date, show some of the differences. One of the biggest things I learned quickly was to do what's called in-camera editing. It's make the shooting of the video so that when you set it in your editing software, there's a lot less extra work to do. Like, literally, one of the first things I figured out how to do was, instead of sitting there and doing a long ramble of this idea, this idea, this idea, to literally go idea one. And then when I bring it into the editor, when I get to that point, I cut. And oftentimes the preamble to the new idea takes me a little bit of a try to get into. And I can just go like, okay, this is where I actually start posting the idea, and then clip out that section, stitch it together, and put a little window in that says prompt 1 or something like that. And so I've set it up when I record a thing that it's broken into modular sections. And I give myself, in the way I'm talking when I record a video for editing, I record in like sentence breaks. You actually stop, so that if you say the next part and you just bumble it, you don't have to do the last 4 sentences to start over again. And it's sort of easier to, and it does change the way that I speak. These are all very rambling videos, but when I'm doing an edited video, being able to say, welcome to another episode of Inspired Content, the show where I rate, review, and react to books, games, movies, and more. Stop. This week, we'll be looking at, and then you name the thing you're looking at, then stop. Because if I went into that and said, this week, what are we looking at today? No, not this week. It's today, we're looking at this. And then later this week, we'll look at this. Like, no. That's not how I'm supposed to do that. But if I hadn't stopped after the intro, I'd have to start all over again. And that's down to in-camera editing, is what I have heard it referred to. And that's essentially just, when you're shooting, shoot like an editor. So that you know, if you've hit a point where you stumble over something over and over and over again, every time you start a reshoot of that piece, wave your arms. Because when you're going through that editor, you can set it to 6 times speed, and it'll speed right past all those failed attempts. And when you really get it right, you're going to know, like, oh yeah, I had to reshoot that 6 times. Watch for the 6th arm wave. And you're ready to go. You clip there, pull it back, you're good to go. It makes it so much faster and so much easier to edit. And that's all down to knowing how to do that when you're on camera. And you don't know how to do that your first time. You're just not going to know how to get it right. You're going to mess it up. And part of that is because everybody's speaking style, everybody's script, everybody's intros, everybody's manner of speaking is different. And you're going to have to find the patterns that work for you. Yeah, I will tell you, that is really useful. Woo! Hey, down here, pay attention. And syncing the audio is something that most people have seen people do. It's why they have the little clapboards. It's their equivalent of combining the arm wave and the audio click to realign the audio clips and the video clips. So when they come in and they go like, take 6, clack, you can see that card drop in the middle of the screen. And that's why they use it. That card actually is like a dry erase or a chalkboard. And they can write which take it is on it each time they retake it. And that number appears on your screen in your editing software. Like, I just always thought it was this weird, fun little thing that they did in movies out of tradition, but it makes total sense why they do it now. Once you've sat down and edited a 32-minute record of a 7-minute long video, you suddenly know how very important it is to be able to take out and fit certain spots. And so, like, I would do one of those clack cards. I don't think I really usually need it, because I've started to get to a way of thinking about it that I don't usually have to do a lot of resets. And I'm not afraid to sometimes verbally stumble. So I don't need it to be perfect. If I were doing a news program where I sort of wanted a clean, sharp, professional looking edit, rather than being some dorky guy in whatever place he's living at the time with a webcam talking about a book you read. If I were doing a more professional show, I would do more of the tricks that I've figured out and understand more now. But yeah, little things as you're going make more sense as you go. And sometimes things that are used, you find out that I don't need them. And so, like, but just experimenting and exploring. Yeah. I do want to do, like, when we were talking about tinkering week, trying to remember, do you remember anything specific that I was talking about tinkering on? Because, like, for the Roving Jack channel, that one I had hoped to do a couple of different types of series. One of them was going to be, let's go for a walk and find, like, here's a bunch of garbage we found when we were walking. What can we make out of it? So I wanted to do that one. Another one I want to do, and I actually did start working on it, was a series where I start with nothing, essentially, and find an object that I can use to make the first tools, that I can use to make the second tools, that allow me to make the third tools, that then allow me to make other things. And so that was one series of videos that I wanted to do for the Roving Jack channel. And so, like, the go for a walk and come back with plastic bottles and aluminum cans and this and that and the other thing, I sort of have a start on one of those. The other thing I have is the start on starting from nothing and making the first tool that I'll need to make the second tool. And so I sort of started in on some of those. And then I have the how to make my own play buttons. And I also want to do a series over there that I just remembered that I was working on. Oh yeah, those, the Starlight. I've thought about doing stuff like that, just random tinkering projects, on Roving Jack channel especially. Some of those may be applicable here. I was, like, one of the things, like, working with Starlight, I could do a dabble with Starlight over on the other channel. And then one of the potential applications I thought about for it was as a surface to do, like, stained glass or soldering on. And, like, over on this one, when I'm looking at doing products or art projects or things like that here, eventually I'm going to end up resorting to things I make or tinker with on the other channel. And that's partly because, like, if I want to make a stained glass decorative piece as an artwork over here, I may end up using the surfaces that I make over on Roving Jack. And so I'm, as much as when I started both of these channels, my intent was to keep them separate and distinct, I keep finding myself wandering back into the fact that there's probably going to be overlap. Like, one of the things that I want to do for the next product design is I've had an idea for years of a modular clothing design. And part of that modular clothing design was to do essentially like a vest that I could do a shoulder that cuts into like a short sleeve. And then the short sleeve allows you to connect a forearm down to here, say, and do like a 3/4 sleeve. And then maybe do a full sleeve, and then even like a fingerless glove attachment. And so each one of these fits into each other. And one of the things that I wanted to do with that is I didn't want to use things like Velcro, zippers, or buttons. And, like, zippers were the ones that would probably do the best for making that happen. Because I used to have a pair of pants where you could unzip above the knee and end up with a pair of shorts and then zip the leg back on later. And that worked pretty well. But it was one of those things that I ended up never unzipping. But I had this idea for years. I encountered a cheap manufacturer of insole for shoes, those silicone insoles that protect your feet, and it was a cheapo one. And when I was playing with it, like you cut it to fit the size of your shoe or whatever, and when you did that, the top and bottom separated into two sheets of silicone. And when you put them together, they stuck like you'd taped them together. But they didn't stick to anything else other than like glassy surfaces and things like that. And I got to thinking, like, oh, this is like, it's an adhesive that's not adhesive. It's a reusable adhesive that doesn't leave a sticky residue. And it's based off of the fact that the two surfaces are forming a very, very close connection that uses some molecular or mechanical texturing. It's sort of like taking a phone book and taking two phone books and running one page out of each of them on top of each other, and then holding the two books and pulling. They'll resist the pull because those pages are stacked against each other, and the friction of each page rubbing against each other page interferes with its ability to pull apart. And so there's a sort of a microscopic level of that silicon meshing and sticking to silicon. Now, that silicon will sometimes really just stick to silicon, but it also stuck to glass and our smooth refrigerator door. So I actually got it to the point where I could take one of these things, stick it to the smooth refrigerator door, and then get something else that I can stick to it with that other piece of silicon. So I had basically a magnet that was not magnetic. And so it was kind of like, this could be a useful way of doing a clothing fastener. And so I started looking into it. And then I looked into things like gecko tape, which are based off of the pads on a gecko's toes that let it stick and climb pretty much any surface. And I was like, where can I get some of this? And I kept seeing that certain companies out there had tried to come up with a design, and what they found or created was about 1/7 the capabilities of the actual gecko toes. And so they're like, this isn't good enough for mounting TVs to walls. And I'm like, yeah, but it would be perfect for replacing that stupid Velcro on some of those shoes that people wear. Have a fastener that's that gecko tape, and instead of sticking it to another piece of gecko tape or whatever, you have basically, if you do screen printing on a shirt, you can put down a vinyl sticker or something on a shirt that sticks through washing cycles, but it gives you a smooth semi-gloss surface. If you had a shoe or a shirt or something where on one side you had gecko tape and on the other side you had that vinyl surface, it's sealed. It's like a Ziploc bag. But to pull it off, like it stays stuck. But if you pull in a different direction, it curls away and comes away nicely. And it doesn't make a loud ripping noise. It's a nice smooth sound. So I'm like, I'm all over this idea. I got to figure out how I can make this happen. I can't find a supplier for these inferior gecko tapes. It's exactly what I need it to be, but I can't find anybody who will talk to me. And then a little while ago, somebody was talking about, there was a tinkering video by somebody else online where they took a silicone molding material, a very fine detail picking up silicone mold material, and they poured it into something that allowed them to get not a perfect gecko footprint, but it's a series of straight rows of triangles on a microscopic level. And when you mate that surface against other things, it has a very weak equivalent of the gecko footprint. And when they say very weak, they poured a piece that I think was half the size of a regular piece of printer paper, and they embedded mesh that let them hook on a hook, and they hung it on a piece of plexiglass they hung from the ceiling, mounted the plexiglass to a ceiling beam with bolts, and then they stuck the silicon piece against it, and then vertical pull on it held a person's weight, and that should be perfectly enough for me to be able to use as a clothing fastener. And so I want to kind of experiment with that, maybe over on the other channel. But if I make something that works, it's most likely going to appear if I do a series on a product creation over here that could use it. So that, I mean, there's going to be some cross contamination between my channels. I just can't help it at this point. Like, we're going to bleed back and forth a little bit. I'm probably going to end up using the laser cutter at the makerspace to make some of my designs of products, or the sewing machine at the makerspace to make products. I may, like, some of my art may end up being tinkering projects, because a little while back they did the aluminum foil ball, the shiny foil ball, and I got to thinking what might be kind of fun to do with that is make individual shiny foil, like, finger pieces, like the tip of a finger, the middle of a finger, the base of a finger, the palm of the hand, and then use strips from deconstructed soda bottles to make line, cordage, that I can run up through holes I make in those foil pieces and make an articulated robot hand for a sculpture or another project. And, you know, one of the other projects that I thought about doing over on the Roving Jack channel was going to be doing things like taking nothing but starting from a piece of paper and make useful tools. So you make a tool that lets you measure, you make a tool that lets you cut, you make a tool that lets you strap things together. Like, one of the things I thought about doing for, like, this channel was doing that series of like, potentially, what's the bare minimum you need to shoot a video? And I think I talked about this last night, where, like, if you have a Nokia phone that only takes still images, could you make a video using nothing but still images? Yes, there are ways to do that. All right. So what are you going to do for a lighting rig? Well, I could build that from all sorts of scrap materials. So what's the fastest, simplest, and, like, cheapest way I could build a tripod for a camera phone? And I'm like, well, actually, the really easiest way to do that I can think of is to take like, scrap paper and roll it into, like, chopsticks, essentially, and then take those chopsticks and lash them together at the top like you're making a teepee. Like, when I was a kid, we made little teepees. And if you lash them together at the top and have it so that you can spread the legs out and make your little tripod stand wherever you need to stand it, and then make a paper craft piece that basically sits on the top of that teepee stand, you've now got a tripod you can mount a camera on. And so, I mean, as part of a series on what's the, a challenge to do the, bare minimum of what you'd be able to, what you would need to be able to do a video. If I do that on this channel, there's going to be tinkering involved with that. There's going to be tinkering involved with those types of projects, product projects, art projects. And if I get to a point in the next couple years where I can do what I talked about doing, the reshoots, the reimagined Iron Man 3, the reimagined Star Wars, those types of things, I kind of want to do the behind the scenes videos, like how I made the models, how I made the landscapes, how I made the props, how I achieved the special effects. And I want to do it as much as possible with practical effects. So, I mean, I want to be able to do, like, have remote controlled vehicles instead of CGI in a pod racer. But how would I do that? And like the tinkering on getting that stuff figured out and worked out, or I need to do the shoots for the video that I was talking about, the drive-through video that I came up this last time through coming up with video concepts. That skit is possibly best done using green screen stuff and still images taken with a camera. Breaking down how I did that, how did I build up the green screen that's going to sit outside my car window? How did I set up the rig inside the car to shoot past me as if it's from the passenger's point of view at the green screen? Those are all going to be tinkering projects. And I want to show how I do that. It's not always going to be something that goes up on the Roving Jack channel. Sometimes there will be cross-pollination between the two of them, but I think that one's more just naked tinkering, where this one is more artsy, craftsy tinkering kind of stuff. And there may be things as I go more into the products or the arts and crafts on this channel where I may take pieces of leather down to the makerspace and put them in the laser cutter to cut out very intricate, importantly shaped pieces of leather with as little loss of material as possible to achieve a given effect that I want to try to achieve. And that's, again, going to be tinkering. And some of that might be, like some of it's going to be a failure. Some of it's just going to be like, I have no idea what's going to happen if I do this, but I want to try. And like one of them, what I want to do is figuring out the right way to do etching for an art project I want to do on glass. And some of them are going to be like I have for a few years wanted to make a couple of art pieces that are very science fiction-y. And at first I was like, we can just do some simple etching at first. And then I got to thinking, like, ultimately, if I could learn to do some holography, do holograms on glass plates, then I want to do that, because that'll get me some of the best results that I want to do for certain projects. And I've got a huge list of projects. I mean, it's way more than that, of projects that I want to try and tinker for both of my channels. I mean, when you talk about a biology channel, there is something that I have thought about doing at one point. I thought about seeing if I can build a microscope rig that I can set a camera on and get a microscope and micro detail on. That would be fun. I would love to also see if I could get my old telescope. It's a pretty decent telescope that my mom got me years ago, and it's sitting in storage right now. I think it would be amazing to set it up and show video looking through the telescope at the night sky and changing the lenses, doing some filters, doing a few other techniques to get, I've seen 4 of the moons of Jupiter. I've seen the rings of Saturn. I've seen the polar ice caps on Mars with this telescope. I mean, they're small and they're like a hint of a thing that you can see. And there are a couple techniques I know how to do where I can tinker and put together a thing that lets me project an image of the sun and the sunspots onto a screen. And I would love to record that. And that's a tinkering project right there. And all of those are more inclined to be something I could do for this channel, as far as I can think, because I don't know where they fit in like the shop tinkering, which is the main focus over on Roving Jack. Maybe a few of them over there at some point. And I still have to figure out what I'm going to do with the Mad Science channel, the Steaming Mad. I have some ideas for projects I want to do for that. I haven't quite figured out how I'm going to do it yet. And so maybe something like those can go over there. I don't know. And so I'm just I need to figure some of that out. I need to get the rest of my life in order first. I need to get feeling better. I need to get a little more exercise. I have to get over some of my anxieties and frustrations with some things. I need to get a little more income coming in to recoup some of the losses over the last couple years. And I need to network with a few other people to help, see if we can get projects moving in the right direction. But I think we're in a good place to potentially do that. And I am running low on battery, so I'm probably going to have to call it here tonight. But I will come back tomorrow, and I think tomorrow is the first day of planning for Art Week again, I guess. Yeah, that's what the plan is for tomorrow and the rest of the week. Not sure what I'm doing yet. I just latched onto the idea that I'll be doing an Art Week again. So I got to figure out what I'll be doing for Art Week. But alrighty, I will see you tomorrow. Take care of yourself and have a good night. Good battery. We chewed up a battery tonight, didn't we? Alrighty, yeah. Alrighty.